When this story first made the news about three women's bodies being found in the sea in Brighton, I mean, obviously incredibly sad, and that immediately caught my attention because I thought, because there were lots of unanswered questions about what had happened, it was kind of very fertile territory for a whole range of conspiracy theories and all the usual stuff we see, particularly at the moment when young women are found dead. But actually, this whole story has kind of unfolded in a way that I wouldn't have necessarily predicted, but with all the same sleuthing and conspiracy theories and everything else. And so we're going to take top commenters through what's happened and what we know and what we don't know and why everyone's arguing about it on the internet. So it was three sisters, young women, Jane Adetoro, who was 36, Christina Walters, who was 32, and Rebecca Walters, who was 31. And they're from the Uxbridge area of London. So it took a couple of days for their names to be released. And at that point, people were like, oh, okay, maybe they got into some difficulty after a night out, or maybe they got in the sea in the early hours of the morning and something went wrong and they died. And Sussex Police says there's this ongoing investigation that they're doing into how they actually came to be in the water. But what really sort of sparked a whole range of conspiracy theory content was when these images got released of the women. So it took quite a while for an image to be released. There was a picture of them as kids with their dad, but then there was this other image showing them as adults that looks like a really sort of professional photo shoot. These three young black women, they look beautiful, they're sitting next to each other, and that was distributed by the police. But then it turned out that was an AI generated picture of all three of the women.
So, because I saw this post saying this image looks like AI, and this was a racist account saying, oh, so you're telling me that these three women were found dead in Brighton, coincidentally had a professional photo shoot done together. This looks fake. I'm not buying it. And then there's kind of racist terminology underneath. So you're telling me that this is a fake photo? Yeah,
so it actually is AI generated, and media outlets ran it. Like the BBC ran this picture in their story because it was distributed by the police. Like, that's the usual process when someone's killed or people die. The family are able to provide images, photos, and then those will be shared. The girl's aunt has since come out to say this was generated by some relatives, basically because they didn't have an up-to-date photo of all three of the women together. But because it's AI generated, it just means that so many people are using it to either say like these women didn't exist, or this didn't happen in this way, or there's something really fishy and suspicious going on beyond
so the
legit questions you might
have. These women in that photo are real, but the AI just put them together into one photo?
Essentially, yeah. So what we know from the family member who's spoken about it is that they say a relative sort of generated it using images of the girls, but just trying to sort of put them all together. Then this whole wave of stuff sort of followed that, with people saying, well, therefore there must be something fishy here because that is quite an unusual thing to do, or quite an unusual thing to happen for this AI generated image of these women to be shared. Like, these are young women in their 30s. Why isn't there a photo of them together? Or why aren't there photos of them that are up to date? And then everyone starts to spiral. And it's when, as ever, the sort of sleuth disease comes to the fore.
What are the conspiracies?
So one of the main ones, which actually has been kind of unfolding even pre the AI generated image, but certainly the AI generated image sort of exacerbated it, was unverified claims that like they were targeted by a serial killer of some description, that there was an attacker, and that the police are sort of lying.
Listen, there's definitely some kind of criminal activity going on here, man. Trust me, man. To me, it looks like there's some serial killer going around. And he's attacking these black women, believe me.
At the moment, Sussex Police say there's just not evidence of third-party involvement or criminality. And they've got specialist detectives working on the case to try and establish the details of what's gone on. Obviously, all of this stuff can change and evolve. But at the moment, there is just no evidence that this was some kind of serial killer type thing. But quite a lot of, and interestingly, like black influencers have been posting saying, making legitimate points about how often black women's deaths are not reported in the same way, and in their view, people care less about them being killed or dying, and then kind of extrapolating that to a completely new point by saying, right, therefore it means that there are actually loads of black women who are drowning, and this is really improbable, and I think that they've been killed in some way.
But the police are there saying, oh, there was nothing suspicious about it. You want to tell me that three black women in this weather in the UK at nighttime decided to get into the water? I'm not trying to start any quote unquote conspiracy theories, but I'm just asking you to work with me here.
There was one TikTok influencer I saw, someone who posted on TikTok saying, you know, as a black woman, I wouldn't go in the sea at this time because it would like mess up my hair basically. And I don't understand why these women would have done that unless they did it with like a specific purpose or because someone had done it to them. So
You're applying your own hair care routine into an entire race.
yeah, exactly. And I think what's difficult as well is that lots of influencers are then using it to take the story to places that are just really sort of distinct from the evidence. And that can be really offensive and distressing for the family. Like the aunt who's come out and spoken has said, you know, please can the speculation stop because this is really distressing and obviously there's still an investigation ongoing as to what exactly happened. One of the things that has further exacerbated the conspiracy theory content has also been a revelation that was made by a family member. So this was a relative speaking to the Daily Mail, and they revealed this fact that their mum, the mum of these three women, also died by drowning 16 years ago. And so therefore a lot of people are then saying, well, hang on a second, was there some kind of pact or was this, you know, deliberate?
Suicide pact?
I think they made a pact. There is no way they can just all die at the same time. No, that doesn't make sense.
Because a family member also came out to say they were commemorating their mum, like that then people were kind of like, oh, well, maybe they decided to take their own life. I mean, that's not to say that none of these theories will end up being true. Like some of them might, but at the moment we just don't have that information available. Like we don't actually know anything other than the facts that are these women were in Brighton, they were on the beach, they drowned.
It does seem that the most expected explanation for this is that they simply drowned, they got in trouble in the water. But of course, that the more kind of prosaic and boring story is often not popular enough or exciting enough for the internet, so it fills the void with the more exciting theories. And also, by the way, that reflects on a personal level when an unexpected death happens. People often do come up with more exciting explanations. That's like a way
or
to
like
cope with
manageable
grief.
explanations as well. I think this about kind of conspiracy theories in general. Like we hate uncertainty. It's one of the reasons why like the pandemic triggered huge amounts of conspiracy theory content, and we kind of want to almost come up with theories because we don't want it to have been we don't want to think that this could have happened to us. And that's also where the algorithmic impact comes in, because whenever anything like this happens, whether it's before the women have been identified, as we saw people posting on X, or after they've been identified and we've seen creators posting on TikTok, people know that this story, because it's intriguing, will grip people's attention. They'll get the views and the likes. And so the two things almost become like intertwined. It's like the way that algorithms exploit that bit of human nature, like the bit that slows down past the car crash, the bit that it's like that kind of like morbid fascination with a story like this. But what's been going on here, and I think that this has happened a few times now, I've seen it within the sort of sleuth community, particularly on TikTok, is that someone will have a take and then someone will have a completely different take, and then they end up in a bit of a ding dong back and forth. So there's two creators, one called Steph Fanny and one called Kimberly Online. And essentially Kimberly Online started to post some content alluding to some of the kind of like slightly more unfounded conspiracy theories about the women. She's a black woman and was coming at it from that perspective.
You need to know about the three women who were just found deceased here in the UK on Brighton seafront, because what the news are forgetting to highlight is just how young these girls were. And it's making me genuinely concerned that the police are not viewing this as suspicious in any way.
And then another creator called Steph came out and said, actually, like, you know, it's really possible that these women just decided they wanted to have a swim in the sea after they'd been out or whatever, and they drowned, and that really wouldn't be that surprising. And kind of what you were saying, like maybe the most simple explanation here is the real one.
I normally love Kim's videos and all of her takes on things, but this one is not hitting right for me. Police articles were already saying they were potentially ruling out foul play. Why are we taking it upon ourselves to come online after 3 girls have passed away to make their death into a conspiracy? As you said yourself, you're not a detective, you're not a forensic scientist. Let the police do their jobs.
She then got loads of like threats and abuse from the fans and supporters, which is so interesting, by the way, that these are like micro influencers, but who have like a whole kind of horde of like devoted followers who are gripped by these kinds of cases. And so Kimberly Online's followers then started sending abuse to Steph Fanny, and then vice versa. Kimberly Online was getting abuse, and then there were allegations that Steph was being racist, and it all kind of like got really quite out of control.
The photos I'm about to show on screen are just some of the over 500 messages I have received from Kim's fan base in the past 12 hours. And that's not even including the people who are currently emailing me telling me to off myself.
Guys know I'm not wanting to get emotional on the internet, and I don't want to like make this video of me crying, but I don't even think I'm going to keep this video up. I just don't know what you guys want from me at this point. I don't know what you guys want from me.
You see these tensions within these kind of social media communities now, particularly when people want to sort of like stamp their authority on a case, even though these are just people like in their bedrooms coming up with their hot takes about stuff. And sometimes sleuths work together and they kind of will like build up a narrative in conjunction with one another. And then you see things like this where they properly fall out. And I think that the racial element here has been quite important for understanding like why the conspiracy content has spread in the way it has, and these arguments occurring between influencers, like a white influencer versus a black influencer, because they've got different lived experiences and therefore they are more inclined to believe one theory or another.